welcome to Taipei, Taiwan.
Tensions are rising in one of the most hotly contested regions on the planet, the South China Sea.
中国人民也绝不允许任何外来势力欺负、压迫、奴役我们。
This is the image Beijing wants the world to see, a rising military superpower tightening the noose around Taiwan.
解决台湾问题，实现祖国完全统一，是中国共产党矢志不渝的历史任务。
Every drill is bigger, every incursion bolder, and every statement from Beijing more aggressive.
谁也不能阻挡祖国统一的历史大势。
And on the other hand, the United States of America publicly vowing that any incursion will not be left alone, that if invaded, Taiwan will not be abandoned. But why? Why are the world's two greatest superpowers potentially preparing for a clash over this island? What makes Taiwan so important? And why does Beijing insist that Taiwan is part of one China?
祖国完全统一一定要实现，也一定能够实现。
I'm in the north of Taiwan in a small port, and I'm going to walk towards an incredible view that's completely covered by fog of the Taiwan Strait. At its narrowest point, the Taiwan Strait is only 130 kilometers wide. That's a short trip down a US or European highway, just a few minutes by fighter jet. And this narrow strait is the only thing that separates a free and democratic society in Taiwan and one of the world's most powerful dictatorships. Beijing asserts that Taiwan is part of China as part of its one China policy. The truth is, the Chinese Communist Party has not ruled Taiwan even for a single day. Now, to understand why Beijing is so adamant about taking over Taiwan, we must start with Taiwan's incredible geography. Taiwan lies in the middle of East Asia, connecting the South China Sea, the East China Sea, and the Pacific Ocean. To the west lies the Taiwan Strait. Half of the world's largest shipping containers pass through these waters. Hundreds of billions of dollars of goods flow through here every single month. Oil, raw materials, electronics, finished goods. To the north lies the Miyako Strait, a narrow passage between Taiwan and Japan's Ryukyu Islands. This is one of China's only deep water exits into the Pacific Ocean. And to the south lies the Bashi Channel, a deep water trench between Taiwan and the Philippines, a crucial territory for submarine traffic. Taiwan's geography acts like a natural shield. If Taiwan remains free and democratic, China's navy remains boxed in its own waters. Were Taiwan to fall to the CCP, China would gain a main access and main gateway into the Pacific Ocean. Taiwan's extraordinary geography makes it one of the most important choke points in all of East Asia. Beijing is not shy about its ambitions. The PLA regularly practices invasion plans.
China has launched large-scale military drills in the waters around Taiwan to deter the self-governing island from seeking independence.
Amphibious landings, missile saturation strikes, blockade operations, aircraft carrier battle groups encircling the island, cyber attacks, disabling infrastructure. This isn't theory. This happens on a regular basis. China also regularly sends jets across the median line, a boundary that was respected for decades by both sides. China's navy, already the world's largest, is expanding at a pace unprecedented in modern history. The goal of this strategy is very clear: deter foreign interference and convince Taiwan that resistance is completely and utterly hopeless.
纯属中国内政。如何解决台湾问题，是中国人自己的事。我们愿以最大的诚意，尽最大的努力，争取和平统一的前景，但绝不允许任何人、任何势力以任何方式将台湾从中国分裂出去。
But the United States of America is countering. It has strengthened its alliances with Japan, Australia, the Philippines, and Korea. The US also has expanded base access in northern Luzon, directly overlooking Taiwan's southern flank. This is what China fears the most, being surrounded by strong democracies with a strong American military presence. But geography is only part of the story. Taiwan is also an economic superpower, and at the heart of that superpower lies TSMC, Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company, a company that happens to produce over 90% of the world's logic chips, chips that you use every single day in your mobile phone, in your laptop, in your electric vehicle, chips that also happen to be used by AI systems, by missile guidance systems, by F-35 fighter jets, and by satellites, basically in everything. Without Taiwan's semiconductors, the world economy would basically freeze. China is heavily reliant on Taiwan's chips. The US depends on it, Europe depends on it, and virtually every single major corporation on planet Earth is reliant on Taiwan's chips. That is why Taiwan is often referred to as the world's silicon shield. And TSMC and its presence in Taiwan is the reason that so much of the world cares so deeply about Taiwan's security. But Beijing and the CCP see things very differently. To Beijing, being reliant on Taiwanese chips and not being in control of Taiwan is a major vulnerability, and it's a major reason for them wanting to invade Taiwan as opposed to giving up on their one China ambitions. Now, if Beijing were to attack and take over Taiwan, they would be able to majorly advance their semiconductor production ambitions and decrease their reliance on foreign technology. On the other hand, the world would now be reliant on the CCP for their chips. If the fabs were to be destroyed in a conflict, we would see major world shortages of every single consumer good that relies on a logic chip. The world economy would virtually freeze. In either case, the stakes are incredibly high. But there is another reason why Taiwan is so important to Beijing, and it's historical. To understand it, we have to delve into the history that the Chinese Communist Party constantly invokes, the history that it uses to justify its ambitions. Beijing calls it the century of humiliation, a period from the mid-1800s to the mid-1900s, where foreign powers invaded, carved up, and humiliated the collapsing Qing dynasty. In Chinese propaganda textbooks, Taiwan features heavily in that narrative as one of the lost provinces taken from China during a period of national weakness. In 1895, China lost a war to Japan, and Beijing ceded Taiwan to Tokyo. For the next 50 years, Taiwan was a Japanese colony. It was industrialized, modernized, and integrated into the Japanese empire. The Japanese left behind them multiple landmarks, such as this museum behind me. During that time period of being a Japanese colony, Taiwan was not part of any Chinese state, not the Qing, not the CCP, and not the ROC government that would come later. Finally, after World War II, and Japan's loss in that war, Taiwan was surrendered by Tokyo. But China was already in chaos.
Of Mao Zedong marched into Shanghai unopposed. Reds have changed the face of China and brought the world's largest country within the communist empire.
A brutal civil war raged between the nationalists, led by Chiang Kai-shek, and the communists under Mao Zedong. In 1949, Mao's communists seized Beijing and proclaimed the People's Republic of China. The defeated nationalist government, the Republic of China, fled to Taiwan, bringing its institutions, its military, and its constitution.
General Chiang Kai-shek returns to power as president of nationalist China. He takes office in exile at Formosa, island fortress 90 miles from the Chinese mainland. The Generalissimo, here with his wife, predicts that the communists who control the mainland will not last long.
And this is where today's problems begin. From that moment on, there were two governments calling themselves China: the People's Republic of China on the mainland and the Republic of China here in Taiwan. Beijing insists there is only one China and Taiwan is simply a lost province. But here is the truth Beijing hates. The Chinese Communist Party has never governed Taiwan, not for a single day during its entire existence. Most of the world adopted the one China policy during the Cold War, not because the CCP governs or ever governed Taiwan, but out of sheer diplomatic convenience.
The United States of America and the People's Republic of China have agreed to recognize each other and to establish diplomatic relations as of January the 1st, 1979. The people of the United States will maintain cultural, commercial, and other unofficial relations with the people of Taiwan. The government of the United States of America acknowledges the Chinese position that there is but one China and Taiwan is part of China.
The United States of America shifted their recognition from Taipei, Taiwan, to Beijing, mainland China during the Cold War in the 1970s. But they have maintained diplomatic channels open with Taiwan. They have continued arms sales to Taipei, and the USA maintains a deliberately ambiguous policy as to whether the United States would intervene were the CCP to invade Taiwan. Meanwhile, Taiwan itself transformed. It went from nationalist authoritarian rule to one of Asia's strongest democracies, with civil liberties, a free press, free elections, and most importantly perhaps, a distinct Taiwanese identity. Beijing, on the other hand, sees Taiwan as unfinished business. Beijing sees Taiwan as unfinished business after a century of humiliation. Taiwan sees itself as a free society that refuses to be absorbed by that dictatorship. And that clash, history versus democracy, is one of the reasons that this conflict remains so explosive today. But Taiwan's future isn't only a matter between Taipei and Beijing. There is a third player involved, the United States of America. And to understand why the US cares so deeply about Taiwan, all you need to do is look at a map.
Taiwan sits at the center of what American strategists call the First Island Chain, a line of US allies and partners stretching from Japan to Taiwan to the Philippines to Malaysia. This chain acts as a natural barrier that contains China's navy close to its shores. As long as Taiwan remains free, China cannot easily break out into the Pacific. But if Taiwan falls, the entire First Island Chain collapses. Suddenly, Chinese submarines, destroyers, and aircraft carriers gain direct access to open ocean, threatening Japan, threatening the Philippines, and threatening US bases across the region.
To the United States, that is unacceptable. It's not just about geography, it's about the balance of power in Asia and the survival of America's alliances. Washington also sees Taiwan as proof that democracy can work in the Chinese-speaking world. A free and democratic Taiwan sends a message to the entire region. A Taiwan crushed by dictatorship and by the CCP sends a very different message. That is why the US maintains a policy of strategic ambiguity. On the one hand, it doesn't promise to fight for Taiwan. On the other, it doesn't rule it out either. That uncertainty is designed to deter Beijing and keep the peace. But at the same time, the US is preparing for the worst. It's rotating troops into the Philippines, expanding air bases in Japan, strengthening missile systems on Guam, and training Taiwanese forces, as well as supplying Taiwan with billions of dollars of weapons, F-16s, anti-ship systems, Patriot missiles, drones, cyber capabilities, and more. In other words, the United States of America have quietly been building a regional coalition, one that would make an invasion of Taiwan extremely costly. For Washington, losing Taiwan would not just be a setback, it would be a strategic earthquake, one that shifts the center of gravity in Asia towards Beijing. That's why the United States of America cares, because for the US, Taiwan is not just an island, it's the key to the entire Indo-Pacific order. In Taipei, anxiety over China is real but not paralyzing. As you can see all around me, life continues to go on. People raise families, people study, people work, people build businesses. People here mostly identify as Taiwanese, not Chinese. They want peace, they want stability, they want the status quo. But people here are painfully aware that that status quo and the freedom that it guarantees is not guaranteed. That's why every single election here is a battlefield over direction, over whether to lean into relations with China or whether to strengthen relations with democracies and with the broader Western world, especially the United States of America. But one thing is absolutely clear: very few people here want to be ruled by the CCP and by Beijing. They've seen what happened in Hong Kong. They know what one country, two systems really means.
The protesters now want democratic rights guaranteed and an inquiry into police brutality. An officer pulled out a gun and shot an 18-year-old protester in the chest.
Taiwan is more than just a geopolitical flashpoint. It's a thriving democracy, free, open, creative, modern, and resilient. It's more than that. It's the living proof, the embodiment of the fact that Chinese culture does not actually require dictatorship to thrive, unlike what the CCP in Beijing would have the world believe. This is one of the reasons that Beijing fears Taiwan so greatly, and it's also one of the reasons that the free world should care about Taiwan. Because should Taiwan fall, freedom in all of Asia is endangered along with it. Whereas if Taiwan stands strong, democratic and resilient, the Western world is stronger for it. This is why the world should watch Taiwan, because the stakes could not be higher. In the coming decade or so, the fate of this small country will be decided, and along with it, perhaps, the global order itself.